Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to continue on with our project now. We're actually going to dive into the rigging section. We're going to start off with the first phase of the production, which is creating a skeleton for the character. So I've got my character model here. I've got the wireframe on shaded switch turned on for all of my viewports to make it a lot easier to see where the geometry is. And I also have the X-ray joints switched on as well. I'm going to come down to my side view, and I, generally speaking, will start off with the legs. Then I'll produce the body and then the arms. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in to the leg area here, and I'll switch on the standard X-ray as well. That way I can see where the top of the leg is. So I've got my menu set here switched to rigging, which will give me access to things like skin, constrain, skeleton, and I also have the rigging tab active just here. So we're going to pop up to skeleton and come across to create joints, and what we do is left click on the top of the leg. So this should be sort of just near where the leg goes into the body. It's about there. Then down in the knee, and you'll see that when you create the second joint, it attaches itself to the previous one with this triangular shape. Okay, so the joints are the circle sections just here. Now if you need to kind of adjust the position of one of these, you can middle mouse click and drag, and that will allow you to adjust the currently highlighted joint. If you use the up and down keys, okay, you can adjust, you can actually reselect sort of the previous joint, and if you press down, that will select the joint down the chain. So up and down is up and down the chain, like this. I'm going to pop down and add a an ankle joint as well. And then I'm going to add one for the foot just here, and this is going to be on this edge. I actually should add a couple of other edges in here as well, a bit like the knee, just to get a better bend, but we can do that in a second. So I'm just going to click one on that edge there, and then I'm also going to click one near the end of the toe. And a little trick that I've picked up is if you add an extra joint off the end of the last one that you want, it'll actually properly align this last joint. Each of these will sort of align themselves to point to the next joint down the chain, like this, but then generally this one here rotates itself 90 degrees to everything else. But if you add an extra one, this one is going to also point down the hierarchy, and this new one will be kind of out of whack, and then all we do is delete that. So I'm going to hold down shift and click out here, and holding shift will make sure that this joint is actually directly across from the previous one, so it's in a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the tool, and then I'm going to select that last joint and delete it like that. So what we should end up with is basically the joints running down the middle of the grid. So if I select the first joint that I created and use the move tool, I can move this across to the middle of the leg. Now you may want to zoom in just to make sure that it's sort of more or less down the middle, like that. So that should be okay. Okay. Now, you can adjust the radius or the thickness of these joints over here in the channel box. So you can see here currently the radius is like 0.585, so almost 0.6 for me. If I select that value and change it, okay, to say something like 0.3, you can see that only this joint changes. The other ones don't, even though they're highlighted. Okay, if I right click and hold on this joint and come down to select hierarchy, it will individually select each of those joints. And that's the same as you holding shift and clicking on each one separately. Okay. If I type 0.3 then for the radius, it will shrink all of them. Okay. So you don't want your joints to be too big or too small, basically. Okay. Now, I do want to fix the edges on these feet. So I just want to add an edge on either side. So I'm just going to press 1 to unsmooth them. Then I'm going to hold down the right mouse button and select edge, and double click while holding shift down on both of those edges. Okay. And what I'm going to do is quickly jump back across to my menu set and go to modeling, and we'll pop down to mesh tools, nope, edit mesh, bevel, just here. I'm going to pop into the options, and I'm going to set the segments to 2 and then press bevel. And what that'll do basically is add an edge on either side. Now if you find that that's too big, okay, then what we need to do, or too small, what we can do is adjust the fraction value just here and make it bigger or smaller. Okay. I'm going to go with an option of about 0.3, something like that. And that'll give us enough segments in there to be able to bend the foot if we need to. Okay. Now, we may have gotten some twisted up vertices here, so what I'm going to do is just fix that for a second. I'm just going to go into the symmetry settings and switch the symmetry to Object X, and fingers crossed that's going to work. So all I need to do is just jump into here and select those 2 vertices like that, and you can see them selecting over here as well. And then all I need to do is bring these in like that, and I can do the same with this one. Just pull that in just so it's not twisting, and then just make sure these aren't twisting either. So grab this one and pull them in, and that one there as well. Just bring that in like that, and that should fix the issue. So now we can just select the those models again and just go edit, delete by type, history, and that's basically fixed the feet. All right. So all we need to do basically is just make sure that this joint is sort of sitting right in the middle of this this set of edges here in the feet. So I'm just going to grab the move tool here, just bring this forward, just so it's on that joint, and just grab this one and kind of pull it back like that. Now when we're positioning these joints, what we want to do is make sure that we never rotate them. Okay, so you can see here I'm using the move tool. The rotation values of these have to stay at 0. If they're not, it makes it very difficult to actually set your rigs up properly. So just make sure that you are allowed to move these to position them. Do not rotate them. Okay. So that's the first leg. What I'm going to do is go through and name these now. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to pop up to the Windows menu and open up the outliner. Now the outliner will pop up as a floating list like this. If you want, you can click this button and that'll open up the outliner as a viewport. So it'll just pop open like this on the side, and that can be handy sometimes. Now you'll notice that the joints we've got over here, we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 joints, but over here there's only one visible. What we need to do is hold shift and click on the little plus, and that'll open up the hierarchy. And then what we can do is double click and name each one after the other. So what I'm going to do is call this L, hip, JNT, like that. If I highlight all of that and I copy it, so Command or Control C, and then hit Enter, it's going to lock that in. I can then go down to the next one and hit Control V or Command V, and then just change the word in the middle, and this one's going to be knee. So this is left knee joint. The next one's going to be ankle. And then we've got foot. Oops, got to remember to get rid of that. And then the final one can be toe, like that. So it's really important that you do name all of your joints, and it's generally easier to do after you've built a single hierarchy for the joints. Okay, we can do the arms in the same way. Okay, so with the arms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually build them in the top view. All right, so I can change this viewport to the top view by holding down the spacebar, clicking where it says Maya, and selecting top view. So that's like a shortcut. All right, now as before, I'm going to switch on my X-ray view so I can see where the arm joins the can or the body, and I'm going to create some more joints. So I'll pop back up to the joint button, or I can switch back to my rigging menu and go to skeleton, create joints, and I want to place one just here where the arm meets the can, one in the elbow, one in the wrist, like this. And then what I'm going to do is place one in the middle of the hand, like that. I'm going to do the fingers in a minute, but what I want to do first is scale these down. So I'm going to grab the selection tool, right click on the shoulder joint here, go to select hierarchy, and then reduce the radius value. And once again, I might put these down to 0.3 as I did with the legs, and then for the fingers I'm going to reduce those down to like 0.1 or something like that. All right, so let's do a finger. I'm going to select the joint tool, and I'm going to click on the hand joint. Then I'm going to do the middle finger first, okay, because it's straight. So if I hold down Shift and then click where the finger meets the body, just here, then where the first knuckle is, then the second knuckle, then the fingertip, and then once more outside the finger, like that. So it's got to keep them all straight. Then I'll turn the tool off, go back to the first finger joint, just here, right click on it and go to select hierarchy, and then I'm going to change the radius value down to 0.1, like that. Now note that when I started drawing these new joints and I first clicked on this joint here, it actually went bigger again. So I'm going to change that to 0.2. All right. Now with this first joint here, I can just use the move tool and just move it up a bit so it's in the middle of that finger, like that. And I can delete this end joint. Now what I can do is select this first knuckle joint, and I can duplicate it. So if I go to Edit, Duplicate, where is it? There it is. Control D or Command D, and then I can move this down to this finger, and then I can do the same thing up the top. So Command D or Control D, and bring this one up. And then all we need to do is basically reposition these fingers onto the knuckle areas. Just make sure that they line up. So I'm going to select this joint and reposition it in here. Now it's handy if you put this right on the line of the polygons underneath, right on those edges. It helps to keep them lined up a bit more. So something like that. And then the same with this one here. So I'll just put that on the edge and then place this in the middle of the joints. Like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect these fingers from the hand. So I'm going to select each of these joints here, and then I'm going to go to Edit Unparent. Okay. The reason for that is we're going to realign these joints, and if we have the fingers connected like this to the hand, it's going to align to one of them rather than it pointing straight down the middle. Okay. So we need to disconnect them. We orient them all and then we reconnect them. So let's orient these fingers first. These ones are okay because they're all running a straight line, but you can see these ones, the crosses on them are actually still lined up with the grid instead of pointing along. So I'm going to select this one. We'll pop up to skeleton and we'll go orient joint. We can have a quick look at the settings here. I'm going to go edit reset. Okay, and then just hit apply. And you can see that the little lines all line up with one another, except for the end ones. The end ones never line up properly. So there we go. Normally what we would have done is actually kept the additional joint on the end here. So, you know, that would have kind of fixed that. If you grab the joint tool real quick and you add an extra joint on like that, obviously it's going to make this one bigger. But if you then orient them, okay, that one will actually fix itself. Then you can delete this one and then just reset this down to the right size. So over here, 0.1. It's a bit fiddly, but you can see basically it lines them all up properly. So we can do the same thing over here with this one. So we'll just click on that and then adjust one out here. Like that. Select the last one, delete it, grab that one. Whoops. Yeah, that's fine. 0.1. There we go. So when you add in that last joint, it actually realigns this one automatically. And you can see that it now lines up in the same way. Okay, so we'll do the same thing with the shoulder. So I'm going to grab the shoulder. This one actually looks okay because we didn't have to move any of these. So we can just go back in, select these joints here, and then shift select that final one in the hand and go edit parent, and they'll all join back in. Okay, now we do need to do one for the thumb as well. So I'm going to do the thumb separately. I'm going to select the create joint. I'm going to click on the hand. Then I'm going to click in the middle of where the thumb joins. Then down in the middle of the thumb. Then at the end of the thumb. And then sort of off the end of the thumb, like that. Now you can see that this one has realigned itself over here, so we might need to kind of do some disconnects and realignments and so on, but we can sort all of that out in a second. So let's just right click, hit select hierarchy. Let's drop that down to 0.1 again. That should do, that'll be okay. Let's have a look. I think at this point what I'll do is I'll actually jump back up into my 4 view mode and we'll move this up in a position. So I'm using the move tool here, and in the front view, let's just drag this up in a position like this. We can press F to zoom in. So what we're going to want to do now is actually move these down so they follow the curve of the hand, and also for the thumb we need to make sure that we're following that position as well. So let's start off with the thumb joints. So I'm just kind of zooming in on each viewport here so we can see what we're doing. I'll turn off orient joint for now. We will need it in a minute, but it's a little easier to deal with it when we're working like this. Okay, so I'm going to grab this first thumb joint just here, and I'm going to drag it down so that it sits in the middle of the thumb. Then I'll grab the next joint down the chain, so I can just use the down arrow for that, and I'm going to move that down into the middle of the thumb. If I press Shift F here, it should zoom in a little bit better, like that. Then I'll hit the down key and just move the next one down to the tip of the thumb, and then finally this one here. I'm just going to grab that and move that down so it sort of lines up with the others, like that. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect the thumb and the other fingers. Actually, I better line the fingers up first. So these first knuckles should be fine because they're all sort of at the same level. So what I need to do is grab these ones, second knuckles, and I'm going to move those down a bit so they're in the middle of the fingers. Then the next set of knuckles, and I'll move those down a little bit. And then finally the fingertips, and I'll move those down like that. Now these end ones really probably should be inside the finger, so in some cases you might have to just nudge them back in a little bit like this, just so that they're within the geometry. And just try and keep them lined up like that. The end ones don't really have too much bearing on it, but it's nice just to keep them kind of neat. You can see that this thumb is sort of way outside the area as well, so we just need to kind of push that back into place like that. So just make sure it's sort of lining up in all of those viewports, and we can just kind of tweak it down here. Alright, so let's disconnect all of the fingers, and we'll just reorient the hand. So I'm just going to shift select each of these plus the thumb, go to edit, unparent, and then what we'll do is pop back up to the shoulder and go to skeleton, orient joint like that. You can see this one here is not going to actually orient properly. So what I might have to do is reconnect this one up here. So I'll select the finger, then this one, and hit P. And then if I go back up to the top of the hierarchy and hit apply, you can see it all lines up again. All right. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll also do the same thing here on the thumb. So I'll apply that so they're all oriented correctly. All right. Then I delete this end one on the thumb and then reconnect the hands. So shift select both of these plus the thumb, then the hand joint, and then press P to connect them back to the hand. And then we can close this off. So that's basically the joints for the arm, and now we just need to rename them. So I'm going to open up my outliner again, hold down shift and click, and obviously now because we've got these fingers in, there are way more joints that we need to deal with. You know, having a 3-fingered character instead of a 4-fingered character in this situation can make it a lot easier to rename, because there's less things to rename. Alright, so top one, let's just double click on that, and that's going to be left shoulder joint. I'm just going to copy that, or Control A to select it all, Control C to copy it, and then hit enter. Okay, so the next one's going to be, paste that in, that's going to be elbow. Next one's going to be wrist. Okay, then we've got the hand. And then basically these fingers are going to pretty much be sort of a duplication. So the fingers are always a pain to name because there's so many of them, and we need to kind of specify each individually. So what I'm going to do is call this left, finger, mid, O1, J and T. I'll select all that and copy it. Then I'll hit enter. Alright, so that's joint 1. Okay, next one down is going to be the same but joint 2, so we just have to change this number. 2, 3, and then the last one, you can either call it 4 or you can call it mid-tip. Okay, I'm going to say 4, it's easier. Alright, now we jump across to here, and I'm going to paste this, but instead of it being the mid finger, okay, you know, you can call it pinky. Okay, that tends to be what a lot of riggers might name this. So I'm just going to hit C and paste that in, and then we go through and just change the numbers again. So 2, 3, and 4. Then we've got this one here, which is the 4 finger, or index. Just copy that, and then go in and paste it and change the numbers again. And then the final one's a thumb, and there's only 3 of those. So I'm going to paste that in and just call this thumb. Copy it, paste it, change the number. So we'll just call that 2, and then 3. Done.